I think it comes from by Sinicki's where the power comes from now, doesn't it, Derek? I think so. Right at Croc Road. It turns. into
Yeah,
Croc
but
Road.
they're trying to bring some off at F because it was gonna be on F.
Okay, we are live, so.
So I never bought a generator because they must have power for agriculture. I think in my 30-some years, the longest power was off was 4 or 5 hours. They gotta have power.
Wonderful, right?
When Dad had power off for 24 hours in April, there, well, no, I got power was on. They didn't top it off.
All right,
Morning, Kim.
we'll call the meeting to order on the September 10th Land Conservation Committee meeting. Roll call. All members are present. Nick has to be excused. So with that, we'll move on to approval and repair of the agenda. Everybody have a chance to look at the agenda, so I'll need a motion. Motion by Tim, second by Kim. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Approval and repair of last month's minutes, if everybody had a chance to take a look at those. So I'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kim, second by Derek, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Public comment, is there anybody from the public that wishes to comment? Anybody from the public that wishes to comment? Anybody from the public that wishes to comment? We'll see none, we'll move on to department reports, we'll turn it over to Davina.
So it's only been a couple of weeks since we've been up here last, so trying to get back on track. So for animal waste storage permits, Ebert Enterprises is doing a stacking area and doing some modifications to their burns and manure storage. Colonic is doing a manure storage abandonment of a really old pit, so we're able to cost share those, or the Colonic one we cost share. Farmland preservation standards and walkovers. Travis has done 5 walkovers for a total of 760 acres. All 5 were in compliance. He's doing multiple other ones, but until the corn can come off, can't get in there to finish the walkovers. Multiple hauling audits, and a couple of them were non-compliant due to missed well setbacks. And when we talk about well setbacks, we're talking like they're missing it by like 50+ feet. So they're spreading really close to the wells. Another one spread on less than 2 feet of bedrock after we had those maps already revised. And then other setbacks that were missed. Multiple other ones were performed, and they all were good with their rates, conditions, and all setbacks were met. For nutrient management farmer education, we have all our reimbursements out for 2024. For 2025, we have been allocated $35,000. Now this, our 3-year average of what we get for nutrient management farmer education, where the farms write their own nutrient management plans, our 3-year average is $16,000. So they doubled it this year, or for 2025 to $35,000, which is gonna be a crazy workload because we're taking over the NWTC participants that Brad Holtz used to teach and do. So we took over most of them this year. A lot of them were not reimbursed because we did not have the money for the allocation. So next year we will. This year we had 46 plans totaling almost 11,000 acres. So that is doubled from our years prior.
So will there be people coming in from other counties then if we're doing the NWTC?
We are only taking the Kewaunee County participants. I think there's like 2 from Door, but they do have a couple acres in Kewaunee that come through ours. So Brown County got extra allocation too. They're trying to set up dad caps coming into Brown County and I believe Door to do their own programs. So these are Kewaunee County farmers. A lot of them are smaller farms that we're working with to get into compliance. Nothing for conservation plans or public health or chapter 39. Sanitation's been really busy. All's been in the field pretty much every day. 1 soil inspection, 10 septic inspections. Now the weather's kind of stopped raining. Would He's been really busy, 6 permits. Let's see, we did open well testing, so we are able to, with our contributions, Peninsula Pride and EPA, we opened it for $10, flyer, $10 per well. In talking with EPA, only 160 samples can go to the EPA. They're doing nitrates, that's all their lab can handle for their capacity. So 160 will be run through EPA, the rest will be run through Stevens Point. We're using the same protocol that Point uses at EPA, and then all the bacteria ones will go to EPA, or all the bacteria ones will go to. So EPA wanted to help fund it, they couldn't fund it by writing a check, so they're funding it by eating the cost of doing the test at their lab intern.
How are we gonna decide if we have 300, how are we gonna decide which 160 go to the EPA?
One's with nitrate, because they're gonna run nitrate and nitrate. I don't know the difference, but they can run the two, so.
I mean, or so we're gonna target a specific area, if they go 160 wells?
No, I'll just select the wells. The ones that have never had nitrates before and then repeat testers, there's no reason to get the extra nitrate versus nitrate. But
Right, I guess what my concern with that though is if we send 160 there that we know are gonna possibly be positive, it's gonna make it look like to the EPA that, so that's why I'm questioning, how do we pick the 160? I think we should, whether you draw them out of a hat or, I don't know what's the board's thoughts.
It doesn't really matter to me.
because I guess that it almost looks like we're targeting it, and we know we do have bad areas, I'm not.
Yeah,
discounting
and
that, but-
the EPA, I mean, they're gonna get the same results. They're gonna get the same results that I give to you guys with they know we're testing 250 wells and they know that their capacity is only 160.
Right,
But yeah, whatever the board,
So let's just say that they find out more about the nitrates. What's really gonna happen? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but that land is not owned. A contractor came in and bought it. So are you gonna say to that contractor, hey, you gotta pull back on this land, like you have to?
More to sell it. So
Oh.
there's absolutely not a lot to be sold.
and Kim, you weren't here last month. We tested there was only one of those wells in that subdivision that was tested in May.
Mhm.
So when we first started testing those, it was at like 25. Don't quote me for this because it's in the minutes, but it was like 25. And then the next year it was half, and last May it was under 10 parts per million in that subdivision for the first time. So definitely going, yes.
You wonder if you go back to what you had said a long time ago, the more you run.
Yeah, I don't know, but
I wonder.
there's really nothing that the EPA can do because the farms are following their nutrient management plans, and we have documented that well that they have been. So, I mean, as long as we're following the standards,
But
but
people are still buying.
yeah,
If the builder's honest with them, which,
And I believe they are.
because you made the comment of when Champion came out, they right away.
First thing they said.
so I think EPA wanted to help with the well testing because we have some of the best data in the state. And they are getting a lot of calls and complaints, not only from concerned citizens, but from landowners and people that are calling the DNR, and I mean, it's trickling down where the complaints no longer all come into our office, they come down to EPA and DNR who call us.
But then again, everyone's following the rules and they're still selling the land. So,
Yeah, I can't.
you know what I mean? Like,
Now, there's a lot of people.
and it wasn't Casco selling the land. It was a contractor.
right.
Does the EPA testing give levels in like parts per million, or does it just tell you positive or negative?
For nitrates, it's parts per million.
Okay.
Bacteria is negative or positive, not healthy.
So maybe there's something to be gained, even if a large portion of the sample is gonna have some level of nitrate. Maybe there's something to be gained of showing the concentration over time.
Yep, and that's what we do track in our GIS. And we track that with depth of bedrock and stuff, but. Yeah, so we can determine that 160 later. I mean, testing doesn't occur until October 20th.
Yeah, I think that's something, I don't know what your thoughts are on randomizing, or I don't know how you would pick.
I think you should randomize, so it's equal on both sides. So then they see that they have positive also.
Right.
Otherwise, they're going to just the negative. So then what is their conclusion? They don't
We
see,
take so many out of each township too.
Yep.
A percentage.
because like you both have had where you've scratched your head numerous times because Joe Blow over here was great and Joe Blow over here
Oh,
wasn't.
and that's what it is.
And I think they should
Literally-
see that. They should have that.
And they have. So I've been having really good conversations with our EPA contact. And I've showed them some of that where it's like, okay, these, and I have all the depth of bedrock. I mean, it's the same depth of bedrock. It's the same well, or well depth. It's the same well casing. I have some of our friends at USGS and that was done. This one's safe and then this one's
Those,
Yeah.
those wells can literally be 80 feet apart.
not even. I
Or not
mean,
even
it's like,
based on that.
it's across the road. So, I mean, it's good that the one well that we tested in May went down, it's the first time it's ever been safe. So I'm hoping that we can we've gotten more signed up this time in the subdivision, so.
I will push it tonight at our village board meeting again, so I'm sure that it gets out there.
Yeah, and we just opened it up this week, or last week, so.
What was the total number again? It was 160 to eat, was it 260 total?
We can go to 250.
250?
Mhm.
How many did you have last time?
A little over 100. It was in the minutes, I think it was like 120. But it was a $30 charge and, landowners were not happy that it was 30, even though it's normally 70. And that's all I have unless anyone has anything else for me.
Well, excuse me, you talked about the cost share for the abandonment of manure pits. What percentage is paid by a grant or state or the federal, or how easy is it to get that money? Is it, you really got to apply years ahead or?
So we do an annual, we do our staffing grant with our DADCAP, so staffing grant, like my position is 100% or 95 to 100% reimbursed by the state, by DADCAP. So we get that back. And then it's about 54% of Travis's position is reimbursed by the state. I don't know if you knew that, but
No.
yes.
Thank
So
you.
my position is, I think I claim at 98% is paid. We get a huge check at the end of the year. And it's like usually 170,000-ish for my position. And like I said, 54% of Travis's. With that staffing grant, we do a grant for bond funds. So bond is hard practices like roof gutters, manure storage abandonment, smaller projects. So we usually get about $56,000 a year. So we can take that $56,000 and we can allocate it to landowners who come in. So Kalana came in, has an old manure storage. We do a cost estimate, we do a design. So Paul did all that. We do a contract and we can do 30% of the cost. So 30% to us, or 30% to the landowner is reimbursed of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
30%. Now, is money always available or is it just up to that 56,000?
It's up to that 50.
So if unfortunately a couple people want an abandonment, some people are not going to get it then.
So we'll put them on the list for next year.
Okay,
So we
thank
have a reoccurring list. And then at the end of the year, actually it's happening now. Other counties will say, hey, I have $20,000 in bond that I have not used. We can do county to county
Okay,
transfers.
thank you.
So we have kind of made a deal in our northeast or east area that if we have money available, we offer it to our area first. So I've gotten money from Door County before that they didn't spend.
Okay, thank you.
I think we got money from Barron County last year. So yeah, as soon as we can, I try to be first to grab some extra funds, but we have one more abandonment coming through, a Zimmer. They came in and wanted their manure storage abandonment. And like I said, these ones dated before our permitting even started, so
Okay, thank you.
60s, 70s. Yep.
You know, I'm gonna ask one question.
Yeah.
And I asked this before. These old pits that are getting abandoned,
Mhm.
they're usually ground pits, correct? Okay. How about, once again, these big old round cement ones that are sitting out there at multiple farms that I drive by and have been sitting there for 15
Yeah.
years and
Yeah,
that full to the top? Do those get watched by anybody? Because sooner or later, they're gonna crack. Something's
Yeah.
gonna happen to them.
no, I mean, we have them all mapped. We have every single manure storage mapped, including the old slurry stores, but we've never done an abandonment for them. I would have to ask Dad Cap. I don't know.
Do they have to be emptied at some point at least? So that,
No, because we don't have any authority over that. So that's your manure pit. So if we don't use it for so many years, I can't go in
Oh,
there
yeah,
and
you
tell
have to
you to
empty
do it. Yeah, unless we cost shared it, then we have some operation and maintenance that we can go back to the contract. But these old pits went in before permits or everything else, so we have no authority for that. Unless we know that they could potentially be leaking and causing groundwater contamination. Then we can potentially go in, but yeah, there's a lot of old slurry stores, and I don't even know how they would abandon them.
Is there any way we could ever hear that number? What's floating around in the county of farms that have sold out and there's having these old pits that
Yeah.
obviously grant all the, they take all the rainwater, they take all the snow, they take
Mhm.
everything. I get that, but
So you want the number of,
just how many are out there of the above, not the active
oh,
ones?
the,
The
so
above
the,
ground.
so the slurry.
Yeah, if that's called, not the active ones that are still being used, that,
So the not used slurry numbers,
Correct.
yeah, absolutely, I can,
thanks.
yeah, I can get that number.
That's a good question too, because who would take them down?
Right?
Right, and then, Like with-
Scrap metal nowadays, right? Harvester.
And you can't
That's our
get, you
cement.
can't get the people to come. I mean, our harvesters, just to get them down, if they can use them or scrap them out, otherwise they will not touch them.
yeah. And like
And that's a
with,
harvester.
Right,
That's
not
with
the
this
cement.
empty feed.
yeah,
And it,
and like the ones that we do in ground are very simple, you know,
Yeah.
they pump them all out, they scrape it down, we go out there, we do borings to make sure they got all the manure laden soil. They literally fill it back in, cap it, and they can farm right over it. So,
What do we see for saturation levels on some of those borings on these pits that are 40, 50 years old?
talk to Paul, but not very much. Not more than, I don't know, 5 to 8 inches-ish, not even. It kind of depends on what soil was underneath them, but the clay liners or the clay pits were, they're good pits.
The design work, right?
Yeah, now in areas where they were agitated more, there was, more, but, yeah, they don't usually have to take out too much of the bottom before you have virgin soil.
Any other questions for Davina? None, we'll move on to cooperating agency reports, and it looks like up to you, Eric.
Most of our fall programming is kind of winding down just because harvest is coming up here. So, corn dry down, we've got one coming up on Monday at Rail Creek right over here. And, then the other one, the second one will be, September 30th at Olson's in Door County. So, and those are free to anyone who wants to bring in samples. And I think the only thing, we're actually asking some additional information this year. So what was in the field the year before? So what was in it last year? And I think we're asking if there's a fungicide applied, but I have to look at the list. But for sure, we're asking what was in the field last year. That's the only thing different. Same thing as usual. September 16th, September 30th.
Did you have one corn dry down already or not?
Mm-mm.
For some reason, I thought there was one in Door County.
Not from us.
did you hear of a lot of fields that got damaged?
I've seen like the one by your house. I saw that one. Not a lot though. Kind of down by,
Out by where we live, there's a lot of cornfields.
Yeah.
that got damaged.
yeah, a lot.
From the level.
Oh, yeah. And then
Oh, that's really bad.
yeah, we started chopping and, they went into some land that me and Duke owned together and Peter thought it was bad, but when he got in it, he's like, and he walked it, but once he got in with the chopper, he's like, wow.
I think
It
they'll
flattened it.
debris in the fields too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Thinking
probably,
yesterday.
even if the field looks okay, there's probably, who knows what out in the
Pills
field.
and all kinds of weird stuff out in Hayfield.
There was a farmer that took a drone and went, because he was not sure and he couldn't believe from when he walked it and then did the drone, the damage he had.
No, that, do you get to recur those damage costs or
I know we
does that go on?
Peter reached out to the insurance and I believe this person that did the drone did, because once he went in, he said there was damage, so then they did a drone and he couldn't believe the
Yeah,
amount
we've
of
had some
damage
small
that.
farmers call, so I didn't know.
Yeah, insurance, so I believe any cow or any plant touching the ground, they don't come out.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Yeah, and they said if it's not down that far, well, then it
It's
just
like-
goes to your harvest. Yeah, you know. so.
It's not on the ground. Because Peter did the opposite. He went in and he was able to get the field. He got it off. But it bent it enough. Then he just went the opposite way and picked it up. But enough where it's stopping the growing on it.
Oh, for sure. Some of them I saw were just like pulled up too, like out. of the
Yes,
ground.
out by us.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I think by us, we had a lot of damage at our house. And those fields, like literally, they were ripped out. The road was ripped out.
Yeah, seems more, anything that was planted east and west went down. If it was in that areas, it went down flat because it blew it right over. Stuff that was north and south is just kind of more tipped, but
Tip,
not down flat,
Yep.
Not everywhere, but the ones I've seen that are flat look like they were planted east and west, so.
All right, any other questions for Erica? If none, we don't have anything.
Yeah, Brian will be here next month.
Next month.
Yep.
That'll be the harvest,
I think so. I think
Or
the
prices.
90% harvest date and prices. I'll have that on the next agenda.
anything new there from FSA?
No, other than, I know Zach had called and kind of asked my opinion on corn damage, and I told him after the second day, I said, there's a lot more than I thought, so I don't know if they have something that they're putting in for, I'm sure, but he was kind of surveying the area, calling around to see how much, but I don't know what'll come from that, so we haven't had meetings.
Move on to number 8, other matters to discuss. Anybody have anything there or?
Can I just ask on setbacks for wells, is there different setbacks for like,
Yeah, depending on, slope and soils and all of that.
Trying to dip the bedrock, right?
Depth of bedrock, yeah,
Municipal well versus private.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can get that I could,
I'm wondering if that's where some of that, like the measuring comes in, like 100 or 150, because isn't it, us CAFOs have like 150,
yeah,
correct?
so those are all on the restriction maps that their CCs have, and then the haulers are supposed to have. A lot of the, haulers will go out fire and either set cones or something, or do tillage passes, or they don't do the new one.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's only,
It's changing. It's always, right? I mean, as the maps come in and stuff, every year it's like, oh, this field changed or something changed,
and then spring versus summer versus fall.
versus I don't know if the well is, but versus incorporated or top applied, a lot of setbacks along.
I think that's one thing that
Frictions.
haulers struggle with. I know we just updated our maps from 2019. And a lot of things do change on those maps in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know who changes that, is that the,
That's through SNAP, so that,
Snap.
SNAP is done through DATCAP.
so that's what, one of the difficult things is if the hauler is looking at a map. I mean, we could update the maps in 23 and then Snap would change in 24. Travis could come out and look at a new map. And we're technically using the old map. So those are some struggles there of when, if a water to state changes or something along those lines.
Now, usually waters of the state stay the same. What changes the most are like sinkholes, depth of bedrock. If we find any kind of bedrock at the surface, which we I don't know if it's quarterly, send those to DADCAP, so those are all put into Snap Maps. So our maps that we use are from the same that the CCA is used.
I
We're
think-
using the same.
I think it's a lot easier nowadays for the CCAs, or a lot more convenient for them to update those maps yearly now that I would say 90% of manure haulers use tablets now instead of paper maps. So we're not dealing with binders of paper
Mhm.
maps. But that's one thing that farmers need to be aware of, that can't run off old maps 5, 6, 7 years old, because things do change in those
Yeah.
years since the last
That's where your
map.
haulers get, because there's so many different, it's not just one, like this far away from a well. There's
Well, and
each
yeah.
one
Yeah.
is different.
Yeah,
So like
I'll
those
agree.
guys go in and instead of 100, 150, so I think sometimes that's where your 50 marker comes in.
I do think they touch on a lot of the changes during the trainings though.
Right.
You know, that, okay, this is changed from last year, an update, you know, when you sit in the hauler meetings. But I mean, it's still enough, even if you know that, so.
Well, and the haulers are changing so much, so I think that's what we're dealing with, where we have a lot of the non-compliant spreading. So there's just the haulers, you know, the hauling company, you know, hires the haulers, and they're changing so fast. And then,
Well, son, there's a different guy there.
right,
There's a lot.
so then there's a lot of those, and then we, like I said, we get a lot of complaints into the office, and
It's from the hauling, like. Sometimes they can have it right on their lap. And
Well, it would be nice, I know we've mentioned this to a company, it would be nice to, the way we can do with our corn planters, we can go and map a waterway and the corn planter will shut off. If we could map a field and actually pull tape measures, and then they would have real-time GPS and those areas would be red. And instead of having just a tablet map that was a paper map, and now you're guessing at 100 feet, it would actually show up on your screen, okay, here's your voidance zone. It's gonna take a little bit to map all those fields, but hopefully that technology comes in the future. And then no matter who you put in that tractor, if an area is red, you just stay out of it,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, maybe you have to select a couple things. We've already asked, you know, even to get like our hauling maps, if we could map that out and then get the opposite of what wasn't covered, you know, and like through Deere, they have no way of doing it. It's like, but they don't focus on it because they're more on the grain and, you know, we're kind of a little side thing, so they don't. So it's not as easy as what a guy thinks, you know, but
Right, and there's so many different layers on these maps too. You probably see that. That's a struggle with new operators when you got 6 different layers on one map. And now you gotta go. down
Yeah.
to the-
especially your CAFO maps, because your CAFO maps are based off of what DNR wants according to your permit. So then there's like 80 different colors on there and but then the haulers get it, because we've had that meeting before, we brought in the farmers, the haulers and the CCAs and maybe we should do that again too, to go over some of the new, or just a revised setbacks, but that's the issue we have in a lot of them, is like, okay, why are there winter restrictions when I'm in summer and.
maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea, because even like, you know, we hear so much about your turnarounds. That's a big thing,
Yeah.
you know, a huge thing.
Mhm.
And to have some class in the winter time when it's dead time.
Yeah, we can definitely set that up.
And I think the other thing too is I know personally, I struggle with our applicator. I ask them questions like, why did you do this? Why, I would like you over into this corner. I think there's a lot of things as the farmer, as a non-operator, I don't know how to pull that hose and the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. You know, it's not as simple as, you know, just get over in that corner. Well, we can't because the hose is laid out, you know.
And it wouldn't be a bad thing when you have this class to have it with the farmer and the operator.
Yeah, that's what I have this farm, the last time we had it was with the farms, the haulers and the CCAs.
I
And it
know,
was
like,
very, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, we did a protocol now where every field, they walk it and they set cones. They set cones up. So it's kind of like, yeah, you have your map, but now you have the visibility of you're gonna run it over it or hit it.
Yeah.
So we mark things.
Yeah, well, and hopefully down the road it gets more, cause yeah, you could set like what type of application you're doing. And the season and a couple things, and then maybe you would lay out that map for you versus. Everything compiled on top of itself, cause you start getting hashes this way and then and they've
Yeah.
gotten better because
Yeah.
there was a lot of complaints a couple of years ago. They threw some stuff in and you couldn't read the map and it's like, well, how do you,
And you can't change the colors from, on Snap Maps, you can't
yeah.
change and turn things off.
So then it took like a year and they redid it and it made it a little bit more legible to see the differences of what they were trying to, but if you could pull a few things off seasonally, it would make the maps. So hopefully they're working on that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can definitely.
I think we're making great strides in county, but the biggest thing is, I think, is just open communication between the farmers, the haulers, the regulatory, and get that understanding of why we're asking you to do this or versus why we're asking you or that we can't, how can we meet in the middle, with the equipment sizing or blah, blah, blah. But just open lines of communication, I think, are good to get in here and build that trust with all the groups and to keep moving forward.
I don't know if Pina has any kind of, so they do like a lot of like the pump school, but it's all like training about pressures and safety and stuff. I haven't sat in a lot of them because I was always on the custom operators board, but maybe I could ask and see, but if they had just a general like of why they lay out hose and how you have to do it and stuff, and then a couple of farms because I asked the same question too, but I'm not out there. I don't know why they do what they do. Maybe they would have something like that if people are interested, just a simple explanation of some of how you gotta drag the hose and stuff. And I don't know if they go over that in their down.
Kevin Ergel would be one guy that probably.
Yeah, and we do the manure hauling
That's-
spring and fall. We do those through UW Extension, which are very well.
But that's more of the setbacks, understanding that,
Almost like
Nothing.
a level 2 class now.
yeah, and they, like I said, they do some down at the Dells when they have their meeting, but I haven't sat through a lot. I never hear of,
Mhm.
but maybe they do, and then it would be somewhere you could go and kind of understand some of that and just,
One thing I want to talk about in conservation updates is I had a chance to go down to, I think it was southwestern Brown County back in July. Yield 360 or Rain 360 had one of their new pieces of irrigation equipment out there. And what it is it's a 3-wheel machine with about 3,000 feet of hard hose on it that rolls up in the center. It's about 60 feet wide and has drop nozzles on it. And they're using this machine all summer long. It'll go through 12 to 14 foot tall corn. And it'll lay the hose down. It'll irrigate your manure or leachate water out. And then it'll come back, roll the hose up, move over 60 feet and go down. So this machine is allowing farmers to get nutrients out on a growing crop, whether it be your alfalfa fields, grass fields, soybeans, corn, during the growing season, even up until this time of year. I know Wheezy's have one.
We have some in Kewaunee County. We have landowner farms in Kewaunee County that want to do this. And
Yeah,
I think they're trying, the hang up right now is, trying to understand how DNR would put it through their permit. So that's kind of where the talks are right now.
DNR was out there that day, and as of now, they're letting farmers use it as a as long as they don't change it to irrigation, right?
Right.
But those nozzles were literally a foot off the ground.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a great asset to get, if we can get another 30 to 50% of our manure out on a growing crop
Oh,
to
absolutely.
suck those nutrients out. So that's something to watch. I know our farmers are interested in it, hopefully in the next year or so.
Yeah, there's a couple
It's a
other ones.
slow moving machine, but when you have a lot of acreage around your dairy, that machine can run 24 hours a day. I think it puts out about only 3,000 to 4,000 gallons a minute. It's not large.
Very
amounts.
small, yeah.
Very small amounts. So you spoon feed the crop. You can go over the same crop multiple times a year. So I thought that was very interesting. And I think we'll start to see more of these in the area, and that should help alleviate some of the issues we have too. Anything else that needs to be touched base on today?
just have one real quick thing. Kevin Erb texted me back. I was asking about the hauler safety meeting they were planning to do, kind of the I don't know, pop-up, I want to call it, I guess. They're still planning to do that, but they're waiting for some rainy days. So when there's some rain in the forecast, kind of keep an eye out for that meeting because they'll be doing that.
Do we know when that's gonna be at?
Probably at Heinz because Jeremy's in charge of planning it, so I'm guessing.
Okay.
I have one question, probably not for land and water specifically, but, as far as drones, so we had some application of fungicide, and I know Jeremy's been doing more and stuff, and I've had quite a few people come up and ask me, you know, some people are like, oh, it was so cool, and then some people are like, well, do they have to, you know what, call people, or do we, and I don't recall if, I know like when the helicopters came in and stuff, I think they had to let certain areas know, or the town. Anybody know that question? If
Nothing to
they-
us, we don't do anything with pesticide, herbicide, or,
or
so that's
fungicide?
all regulated under DAT. I do not know.
Yeah,
I know we get
thanks.
phone calls sometimes, but we just say that that's not.
That's not-
regulated.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to-
Sheriff was definitely at some farms this year because people were complaining.
yeah, and
I
that's,
mean, they have their pilot.
They have their
permits
pilots
and
and
all that
permits through
stuff,
the
so-
mill, yes.
I just don't know if they have to let the public know somehow, or, you know, if it's just call the town chairman, and that's it.
Courtesy.
Yeah, I want to say it's a
Yeah.
courtesy,
And it wasn't all complaints, just some people were asking and, you know, but
curiosity.
it's, you know, all of a sudden you start covering a ton of acres with drones. I mean, it's gonna be a new thing, and we don't need that to become a negative.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, that drone by Heinz, wow. It just zip back and fill up some more in what, in a minute, but it's 110 pounds or 120, zoom, there's,
Yeah.
whoa, this is Jetsons almost or something.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to scheduling future meetings.
We have October 8th, and the next one would be November 12th. We stick with the second Tuesday of the month. Both at 8:15.
November 12th, I will not be able to make it.
And next month, we can always. Look at the different.
Terms wrap up, anything today? With that, if there's nothing else, we'll look for a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion.
Motion by Tim, second by Kim, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries, adjourned. 8:52.